It's freezing cold today and we'll be exploring one of my favourite ways of catching fish, and that's waggler fishing. Not only is it incredibly enjoyable, but it's highly effective in the depths of winter. In this session we'll be covering the basics of waggler fishing. These little pointers will hopefully make your fishing sessions as enjoyable as possible. Unlike pole fishing, where the shadow of the pole can spook fish or limit the distance you can reach, waggler fishing offers greater flexibility. With a waggler, you can effectively fish where you like, which is especially important in the winter months, when the fish shoal up together and requires a delicate approach. You don't need that much tackle to go waggler fishing, and your rod doesn't need to be expensive to catch fish. Today we're using the 11-foot carp waggler, which is a good all-round length for commercials and other venues. Mainline, we're using the lightest line that we can get away with, and today we're using a 4-pound mainline. This provides excellent durability for all sizes of fish, but thin enough that we can cast a waggler anywhere in the swim. We'll be using a loaded waggler for this session. These come with the weight already attached, which means you only need to apply a few split shots down the line, which helps get your bait down to the bottom. So we're just about to plumb up, and I've just moved the float up to about 5 foot, just because that's what I think the depth is. What I need to find is a marker on that far bank, somewhere that I can throw to, and that'll be my marker throughout the whole day. So I know that if I cast slightly to the left or slightly to the right, it's not going to be where I'm fishing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flick it out with the plummet on, and I'm hoping that I can see the float. So I'm going to let load of slack line off. And as you can see, there's no float that's popped up. This means that I'm under depth. The bait isn't on the bottom. So I'm going to reel in and then move my waggler closer to my rod tip. I'm going to go for about another foot. So this is about 6 foot now. And when you're casting in, make sure to stop the line before the waggler hits the water, because then it will straighten everything out, just like that. So let loads of slack line off, let it go slack. Perfect. So my float you can see now, but it is sticking out like a lighthouse. So that means that I'm a little bit too far on the bottom. So what I need to do is I need to move the float further down. So I moved it up a foot last time, so I'm going to move it down at about 6 inches roughly. Just try and work out exactly what the depth is. So stop the plummet, make it go straight. Slack line, and as you can see, it's just popping out now, which means that I am dead depth. And what I'll do is I'll just bring it up another couple of inches, so I'm about 3-4 inches on the bottom, because the bottom of the lake isn't flat. It's probably almost like an egg box, so I'm just going to counteract for that. So I'm roughly 3 to 4 inches laying on the bottom. Plumbing the depth is so important. It can make an average day turn into a fantastic day of just knowing exactly where your hook bait is. Sometimes when the fishing's hard, that you want the bait exactly on the bottom, and with your loose feeding, it might bring the fish slightly up off the bottom, maybe by an inch, or it could be 2 foot, you never know. And putting that bait exactly where the fish are and knowing where you're fishing can get you those extra few bites. If you're not quite sure of what the depth is and you don't know how many feet it is, if you use the marker of the top of the reel seat to the very first eye on this 11-foot rod, it is pretty much a foot. So if you've got 6 of these, you're fishing at roughly 6 foot depth. So if you're fishing over depth and you're laying on maybe a foot or 2 foot, you might not see any bites when the fish picks up the bait. If you're fishing under depth, this means that the hook bait is suspended up in the water, which means that the bait isn't going down to the bottom and not tempting one of those fish to take your bait. Now we've plumbed the depth, it's time to put some shot down the line. This is important because this shot will get your bait to exactly where you want to be fishing on the bottom. And like today, we're fishing around 7 foot. It will take a while for your hook bait to get to the bottom if we wasn't using any shot. So we're going to be using size 8 shot, and we're going to space them out every 6 inches, starting just above the hook length loop. Another main reason why you put shot down the line is to also trim the float. So you want that float tip just to be poking out the water by maybe ½ an inch, which will show indications on the float a lot easier. To attach the float, we're just using the swivel float attachment, which just pushes into the bottom of the float. We're coming into the colder months now, and we're waggler fishing, and this is the last species I expected to catch. The lovely tench known as the bar of soap. Now we've got the tackle set up, it's time to mix up a bit of ground bait and add some maggots to it, and that's what we'll be feeding over the top. You want to add little bits of water, just so you get a sticky consistency so you can make a ball out of it. Right, now for the fun part. We're going to flick the waggler over where we're fishing, put the rod down, make up a ball of ground bait, and our float is our marker exactly where we're fishing. So we just want to throw the ball just short of where we're fishing so we can fish off the back of it. So we've got a bit of bait there, right over the top. So now we're going to cast out. And when we cast out, we're going to hold the line to straighten everything out, and then we're going to dip the tip and then reel and flick. This will sink the line so the wind doesn't drag the waggler away from your swim and away from your bait. So we've had a few small bream now and a bonus tench. We did play a carp, but I got a little bit too excited and the hook pulled. So it's one of those things, but we're enjoying it. That's the main thing. Winter feeding is critical. Fish tend to slow up and don't move around the lake as much in the cooler water. The aim is to keep the swim active, but not to overfeed. My grandpa's always said to me that you can put more in, but you can't take it out, and he's so right. The bait really doesn't have to be expensive. We've got a pint of maggots and a bag of ground bait. It's as simple as that. This is a perfect fish to finish the day session. We've had a fantastic day today, catching loads of species, and it just goes to show what an effective method the winter waggler fishing can be on a day like today. Let's slip this one back and get back in the warm.